Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Fulohoyan. It is that man again, General SHADRACK SIBIYA. You know, when the final chapter on corruption in South Africa is written, there will have to be a special chapter devoted to the role that General SIBIYA played in that scheme of things. Recall Bushiri, Shepherd Bushiri, the televangelist who was granted bail in South Africa after being charged with money laundering and a host of other crimes, and was granted bail. Bushiri ended up not standing trial in South Africa and skipping bail and going back to his home country of Malawi. Now, the High Court in Malawi, on appeal, has declined the request by the South African government to have Bushiri extradited to South Africa to face the crimes that he was being charged with. Now, Bushiri is fighting back now, so to speak. Bushiri has come out of his hiding, out of his shell, with bombshell explosions, and they involve none other than General SHADRACK SIBIYA. SIBIYA held a press conference in Malawi and disclosed that SIBIYA had demanded an amount of about 12 million rands for him to stay in South Africa. In other words, SIBIYA was demanding this bribe so that all the charges that Shepherd Bushiri and his wife were facing in South Africa, could sort of be swept under the carpet. That is a damning disclosure. Another coffin, another nail rather, in the coffin of General SIBIYA. Here I would like you to take a listen to Shepherd Bushiri spilling the beans. Take a listen to this.
In 2016, I was approached by a group of police officers, I call them corrupt police officers, whose names I already mentioned, and I'm going to mention them again. The likes of Rebi, she's a captain in the Hawks, Maritz, and a whole group of company, and a certain gentleman known as Captain Ngobeni, who eventually we realized that him alone was not a part and parcel of the Hawks, but he was their proxy who was being sent to solicit money from us. These did not hide their intentions through this Captain Ngobeni, but to speak that we had to pay 12 million rands if we had to stay in South Africa. And this was apparently known as protection fees. It was in this moment when we were also visited by one of the police officers known as Mr. Paul. He was, I think, a Captain Paul, who said that the General of the Hawks, a department which these 4 police officers were coming from, would stop our case if we would give him something. I remember some of my team members going to have a meeting with this fellow general, known as General SIBIYA. So much money was collected in the name of this general to stop this case. Instead of the general to stop the case, so it was corruption after another corruption. Problem, you go to the authorities, they also are demanding for something, to end something. I remember my team having a meeting with the then General of Hawks at his farm several times. Having meetings with him at his residence in Silverton several times. An attempt for our justice failed.
Unfortunately for Bushiri, in spite of the fact that he paid huge amounts of money, nothing ever happened. The more money he paid, the more General Sibiya, acting through his proxies, would demand, so that it just became too much for Bushiri. The matter was then ultimately reported to IPED, the investigating the IPED is what? IPED, the investigative arm of the police that deals with or investigates crime. And after the matter was then reported to IPED, a sting operation was set up by IPED, in terms of which IPED would give the Bushiris money. And they then went back to Sibiya's people to say, oh, well, we have the money. But Bushiri says, unfortunately, on that particular day, when that sting operation had been set up, and these people were due to be arrested by IPED for taking this bribe money, nothing ever happened on that day. Instead, he says he was arrested together with his wife on the very day that the sting operation was supposed to take place. An indication that Sibiya's men had been tipped off internally within IPED about the impending arrest. Take another listen to this.
The threats of our lives and the demand of money began to grow. It was in this moment when we were also visited by one of the police officers known as Mr. Paul. He was, I think, a Captain Paul, who said that the General of the Hawks, a department which these 4 police officers were coming from, would stop our case if we would give him something. I remember some of my team members going to have a meeting with this fellow general, known as General Sibiya. So much money was collected in the name of this general to stop this case. So it was corruption after another corruption. Problem, you go to the authorities, they also are demanding for something, to end something. I remember my team having a meeting with the then General of Hawks at his farm several times. Having meetings with him at his residence in Silverton several times. An attempt for our justice failed.
There you have it then. You know, Sibiya's involvement in corrupt activities is so well documented now. One just wonders how Sibiya is going to wriggle out of all these allegations. But unfortunately, in the Shepherd Bushiri matter, what might complicate things is that Shepherd Bushiri and his wife have skipped bail in South Africa and will never be coming back, or have no intention of coming back, to come and face trial here. So it will be very difficult to get to the bottom of some of the allegations that Bushiri is making. But Bushiri or no Bushiri, the evidence is there. The evidence is there for all to see. If you want to see it, SHADRACK SIBIYA is involved in all sorts of corrupt activities. And like I said in my opener, when the final chapter on corruption is written, a special chapter will have to be reserved for General SHADRACK SIBIYA and the role that he played, to run down the criminal justice system and policing in South Africa. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the views and subscriptions that I'm seeing. Let us begin a new month. And next month, we'll be having Christmas. So have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday morning. Thank you.